Hello, it's Alex, the Bookubus. Today I'm going to be wrapping up my Vamptember. I had a very wonderful vampire-filled month. Big thank you to Regina at Regina's Haunted Library for creating this event and asking me to co-host this year. It's been a pleasure. And also shout out to the other two co-hosts, Edie Lewis and Elizabeth Sagewood. Everyone will be linked below. Please do go check them out. If you aren't already, subscribe to them. It's been a fun time just immersing myself in vampire stuff for the month of September. I ended up reading 5 books, so I didn't get to everything on my TBR, but I knew that was unlikely to happen, so that's okay. I'm still happy with everything I read. I enjoyed them all, and I also watched a bunch of films as well. So yeah, I'll talk about the books first and then move on to the films. So I started off the month with Thirst by Michael Sicilioni. This was originally published in 1996. And I buddy read this with Brian over at Bad Taste Books. I will leave his channel linked below. If you aren't already subscribed to him, you should go do that. And we both really enjoyed this one. So this is the S&M Vampires one that I talked about in my TBR, and while it does have that, and quite a lot of that, in explicit detail, there's also a lot more going on in this book than initially expected, and it ended up being a really excellent read. I really enjoyed the writing style. It is basically about a woman living in New York City. She works as a window dresser for a department store, but she's fairly dissatisfied with life and she wants to be a poet, and she ends up meeting this handsome, mysterious man who tells her all about art and how she clearly hasn't suffered enough in order to create great art, and so things go from there. And the story is told in an interesting way in that it is alternate chapters between the kind of present day of our main character Cassandra as a vampire and then a previous timeline before she was turned into a vampire. So you do know from the get-go that she gets turned, but yeah, the story of how she gets there was a really interesting one. And yeah, this had a lot of really great elements to it. I'm not going to go into every single detail, but yeah, there was just a lot to like about this. It was definitely my kind of thing. Probably not everyone's. Yeah, there is quite a lot of graphic stuff in here, but it was just really intriguing and compelling. The vampire lore here is a little convoluted at times. It feels like there are maybe too many elements added into the story at times, but it was still just a really great time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, there are some interesting characters. I really enjoyed Cassandra's overall story and her transformation, not just vampire related. There's a gay best friend character who was, yeah, just a fantastic character to read about. Yeah, don't want to go into specifics obviously, but this was actually kind of an emotional journey as well. Yeah, this did make me sad once or twice. You know, the talk of like mortality and death and loved ones and yeah, all of that stuff. But also lots of like BDSM shenanigans, torture and violence and, you know, all of that fun stuff. So yeah, this was just a great read. I could definitely talk more about it, but I've got a lot to talk about in this video, so I guess I'll just keep it fairly brief. But this was a solid 4-star read for me. Oh, and another little tidbit is that the author, I believe, since publishing this book is a trans woman. So yeah, the kind of theme of transformation, yeah, I think there's probably more to delve into there relating to that, but I would definitely read more of this author's work if I get the chance to do so. Next up, a bit of a change of pace. This was Mina and the Cult by Amy McCaw. This is the 3rd book in the Mina series, and this just came out last year, I believe. And yeah, Amy was very kind enough to send it my way. This is YA vampire fiction about a teenage girl, Mina, who moves from the UK to New Orleans, and vampires end up becoming a very large part of her life in various ways. This is the third book in a trilogy, so I don't want to go into too much specific detail, but this is set in the 1990s, so it's very nostalgic, which is really fun. There are lots of great characters, compelling storylines. Yeah, I think each book in the series has had kind of like overall stories and then like mini stories within them as well, and I think that works really well. And the story within this one is related to a cult, so I thought that was a really interesting angle and ended up, yeah, just working really well for the characters and the overall storyline too. So yeah, this was a very fun time, thoroughly enjoyed it, another 4-star read. Next up, I carried on with some YA, but this time it was a vintage YA novel from 1982. This is The Initiation by Robert Brunn, and this is part of the Twilight series. Yeah, not that Twilight. And this is about a teenage boy who starts at a prep school and yeah, finds out some strange things going on, and yeah, turns out a lot of the other students are vampires and they might want to turn him into one too. And he ends up meeting, there's basically like a boys' school and a girls' school in the same area, and they have a lot of socials together, and he ends up meeting this other girl who they click with, and they're both very suspicious about their fellow classmates, and yeah, they both figure out that they're vampires, and so they have to, yeah, figure that out together and try and, yeah, get through things. This was actually really good. Yeah, I enjoyed the characters. There's a, you know, a little bit of romance between the two of them, which was quite sweet. And yeah, I enjoyed the vampire element of the story and how that all played out. And yeah, this does get quite gripping towards the end. It has a great climactic scene and a great ending. Yeah, kind of unexpected in a way as to where it went, which I thought was really good. So yeah, for a slim little book, this was a really good time and another 4-star read. Next up, I read My Soul to Keep by Tananarive Due, and this was originally published in 1997. And yeah, this was an excellent read. This was my favourite book of the entire month. I gave this one 4.5 stars, and it's a book I've been meaning to read for years. And I knew that it was kind of vampire adjacent maybe, because it does involve a group of people who are immortal, and it's through something blood related that they are immortal. So I figured it was close enough to vampires that I could read it for this readathon. Yeah, and it's kind of vaguely vampire adjacent, but it isn't really vampires at all. So now I understand, now that I've read it. But yeah, the immortal characters here, they don't need to like feed on blood or anything like that. So it really doesn't have that kind of element. But this is I think the third book by Tananarive Due that I've read. I read The Between and The Good House and loved them both. And I was really excited to read more by her. And this one, yeah, definitely didn't disappoint. She's really great at writing characters and like families, relationships, all of those kind of different dynamics between the characters, just making everything feel so believable and tangible. And yeah, this one, what is it even about? This is about a woman who is married to this guy and they have a young daughter. She is a reporter and she ends up finding out that someone, I can't remember if the synopsis like specifically says, but she finds out about these immortals basically. And yeah, there are this group of people who hundreds of years ago became immortal through this specific blood ritual. And anyway, that obviously has quite a big impact on her life. There's a lot of other things going on within the story related to, yeah, her life and her family, etc. And this was just, yeah, just a really wonderful novel that I thoroughly enjoyed. But it was a deep one, like it was a heavy one. It touches on a lot of kind of pretty heavy topics like, yeah, love and relationships and death, mortality, yeah, losing loved ones, like what would you do for loved ones? And yeah, I cried a couple of times during this. Getting emotional just thinking about it actually, because those are some really, yeah, kind of sad topics. But yeah, this was just so well done. It is very gripping, like it has, yeah, some kind of really dark content as well, some sinister things happen, there's some violence and some deaths along the way, and yeah, how our main character becomes caught up in all of this, and what does she do about it. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. I don't even know if I explained that synopsis well at all. Maybe you could look that up yourself and see what it's actually about, what the synopsis actually is. But highly, highly recommend this one. I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's definitely going to be one of my favourite reads of the year, and I know this is the first book in a series, so I should track down the others and read them at some point. Okay, and last up for the books, I read Code Red by R. St. Clair, our very own Regina. This came out a few years ago, I think it was 2022, and this was a fun, entertaining read to kind of, I needed that after the heavy read of My Soul to Keep, so that worked out perfectly, and it was also, just ended up being a fun, quick read to end the month with. This is set in a small town in Virginia, and we have, a kind of variety, a cast of characters. We've got like the local sheriff, we've got a teenage girl and her grandfather. There is also an asylum in the area, and so we have the like doctor and the patients there. And basically a vampire turns up as a patient in this asylum, and things go horribly wrong for everyone. And so we're following kind of a cast of characters as all of this plays out. And this was just a fun, quick read, very entertaining. Regina is a really talented writer, and this was super engaging and fast-paced, and just had a lot to like about it. It's got action and violence, it's got great characters, it's got a little bit of romance, it's got some humour. This was just a very enjoyable time, and another 4-star read for me. So another one I would definitely recommend checking out if it sounds interesting to you. Okay, and now on to the films I watched. I think I ended up watching 10 films. I probably should have counted before I said that, but anyway, I did have a watch list prepared, and I think there were 2 films on there that I didn't get to, but I ended up watching a couple of films as well. So anyway, let's see, what did I watch first? First up, I watched Requiem for a Vampire from 1971. This is a French film directed by Jean Rollin, and he's a director I've been kind of getting into recently, and this one was wonderful. It's very just vibes, basically. The only plot is, there's a couple of young women who are kind of on the run, and they end up finding this castle, and they end up finding some vampires in the castle. This was just wonderful. Some of it is a bit slow, but the visual style is just absolutely my kind of thing. It's very gothic and atmospheric, and I just loved it. And it does have some sexual content as well, so just a heads up for that. If that's not your thing, you might not be into this director at all, because it's definitely his thing. And I actually rated this one 3.5 stars, but I think that was just because there are some slow points. It kind of gets a little bit dull at times, if I'm honest. But looking back on the experience, it's all of the good things that I remember. So I might actually bump this up to a 4-star because it was definitely a memorable watch. Next up, I watched Pale Blood from 1990, and this is set in Los Angeles, and there is a string of murders, and there's also this vampire who comes to town, so maybe the 2 are related, maybe not, we'll find out. This one was actually a pretty interesting concept and had some really cool elements, but I think just the execution, it just didn't quite come together, and some of the editing style was I don't know, didn't age very well. Obviously I love this era of horror film, and I love low budget stuff, and this is that, but I don't know, something didn't quite work for me, but I still enjoyed it somewhat. And there's actually one character who has some vampire paraphernalia in her apartment, including a poster for Kiss of the Vampire, which was another film I actually got to this month. So I thought that was kind of funny. Funny coincidence. Anyway, I gave that one 3 stars. It was okay. Next up, I watched Sinners, which just came out this year. Very hyped film, but did not disappoint. And this is about twin brothers who return to their hometown, and they they end up encountering vampires. Yeah, this was fantastic. Yeah, visually really wonderful, and yeah, the story was very compelling. It's a long film, but I definitely didn't feel bored at any point. Yeah, if you haven't seen this one yet, I would highly recommend doing so. Next up, I watched Planet of the Vampires from 1965, and this is about a space crew who land on a planet and there might be vampires. And this is a Mario Bava film. I've seen a handful of his films and really enjoyed them. Sadly, this is probably my least favourite of the ones I've seen by him so far. It was just kind of boring, I'm not gonna lie. Visually, it had some cool things going on, and yeah, there were a few kind of scenes that were good, but I unfortunately found it pretty slow. It didn't really hold my attention for a lot of it. And yeah, so not my favourite. I gave it 3 stars, like it was still okay, but I was a little disappointed. Then I watched Innocent Blood from 1992, and this is about a vampire who encounters the local mob in the area being Pittsburgh, and it's actually not only shot in Pittsburgh, but it is set in Pittsburgh, so it has a lot of like Pittsburgh related things going on, which I thought was really cool. It was really cool to see the city on screen and see a lot of places that I am familiar with. So yeah, so that was really fun. I really enjoyed that element of it. And yeah, this was a fun time. This was directed by John Landis, and it does kind of feel like it's an American Werewolf in London, but with vampires. It's just kind of got that same style to it, where you've got the horror, you've got some humour, you've got some romance, you've got some, you know, gore and violence and stuff. So yeah, it was a good mix. It was entertaining. And yeah, I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. Then I watched The Kiss of the Vampire. This came out in 1963, and yeah, this is like your classic horror. We've got this couple honeymooning in Bavaria, and they end up getting stranded, and they meet this local guy and his family. They might be vampires. Yeah, this one, I really enjoyed the style of it, the vibe of it. It is a bit of a slower paced one, but I thought it had some, yeah, great visuals and some interesting elements. I really liked the fact that it was like a family of vampires rather than just a lone vampire, which kind of normally seems to be the case. And yeah, how this couple end up getting caught up in things. Yeah, there's more going on, of course. There's also like an occult element that comes in a bit later on, which I really enjoyed too. So yeah, this one had a lot to like. Yeah, I think the fact that it was a little slow in places, and not like the most captivating, kind of knocked the rating down a little, but 3.5 stars, would recommend it if it sounds like your cup of tea. Next up, I watched Devour from 2005. I don't know where I had heard that this was a vampire film. I don't know. I think I read it online somewhere and I was like, oh cool, I'll add it to my watch list. It's not a vampire film at all. So yeah, I don't know what that was all about. So I'm not really counting this one. Also, it wasn't very good. It's about like a computer game that these friends get caught up in, and then there's some kind of like satanic thing, which sounds really cool, but it just was a bit lame. I gave it 2.5 stars. Next up, I watched Nadia from 1994. This is set in New York City, and it's a low budget, kind of gritty, black and white art house vampire film. And yeah, I thought this one was really good. It is a bit slow at times with the pacing, I think, but visually interesting. I really enjoyed some of the performances. And it also does have a Van Helsing character that becomes a part of the story. So we do have that kind of like classic, you know, vampire and vampire hunter situation, but the setting and the style were very unique to that classic story. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah, this was a really interesting one, and one that I'd been meaning to check out for a while, so I'm glad I finally did. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Then I watched Dinner with a Vampire from 1988. This is about a vampire who is kind of dug up from his grave. And then in the present day, this vampire has become a film director, and he brings in a bunch of people, you know, to act in his film. But yeah, they don't realise he's a vampire. So they're in this amazing castle. I can't remember the name of the place. I looked it up. I'll have to put it on the screen, but this like incredible location, like it's absolutely stunning. So that was really cool. Story-wise and everything else wasn't great. It was, yeah, just a bit kind of boring, a bit slow, not super engaging. You know, it had its moments, but wasn't my favourite. I ended up giving this 3 stars, but looking back, it might actually be more of a 2.5. I might have to change that. And unfortunately, this was Lamberto Bava, who is Mario Bava's son. So the Bavas weren't doing it for me this month, unfortunately. Okay, and then last up, as I said before, I kind of went on a bit of a Jean Rollin kick, and I ended up watching Fascination right at the end of the month. This came out in 1979, and this is kind of not like full-on vampire, but it maybe has some vampire things going on. It's got some blood drinking, so yeah, I think it still counts. But just don't go into it expecting like a full-on vampire film. This is, yeah, another one like the other ones of his I've seen. It's kind of very about the vibes, but this one does have a bit of a plot. It's actually very similar to Requiem for a Vampire. It's about this guy who is on the run and he ends up finding a castle, and then he, yeah, meets these people in the castle and things happen. But the things that happen are different to Requiem for a Vampire, at least. And yeah, this one, again, just gorgeous, had, yeah, great visual style and atmosphere, lots of nudity and such like, and yeah, just some good stuff. It was a good time. I really enjoyed this one. I think this one was a bit more of a like more solid, well-rounded film than Requiem for a Vampire, which was kind of a bit off with the pacing, whereas this one was, yeah, a bit more well-structured. But yeah, again, just looked gorgeous and had some really interesting characters, and the story went in an interesting direction that I enjoyed. So yeah, this one was a really good time. I ended up rating this one 4 stars. And yeah, he's a director that I definitely look forward to watching more by. But I think that was my wrap up for everything I read and watched for Vamptember. So overall, a pretty damn good time. If you joined in with Vamptember, I would love to hear about what you read and or watched. If you had any favourites of the month, any recommendations, please let me know. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you again in my next video. Bye.